It looks like there's some familiar teams at the top and at the bottom of the power rankings.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for a very long time, and this is my sixth season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, where I've been hosting Locked On MLB all of these years. And this year, I'm adding 5 episodes a week to that. So you get 10 episodes hosted by your pal Sully, including Locked On MLB and also Locked On A's, as I'm doing double duty Radcliffing this with me as the host of both shows. So if you like what we're doing here, come on board. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 of bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com, easy for you to say. Doing it live. We're doing it live. FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. And by the way, if you are listening to us every day, make sure to put that hashtag #EverydaySully so I know who has been listening every single day. It just helps. It helps. That's if you go on the social medias and anything like that. Hey, yesterday we talked a little bit about trading managers. And I asked the question, who is the only manager to be traded to another team and then wind up winning the World Series that year, their first year there? Now, Scott Horstmeyer, who's usually my can't miss answer there, got really close. He said Chuck Tanner. Chuck Tanner was traded from the A's to the Pirates in a deal before the 77 season that involved Manny Sanguillen, legendary Pirate catcher. Manny Sanguillen played 1 year with the Oakland A's, and that was part of the deal that brought Chuck Tanner to the Pirates. And then he came there in 77, and in 79, the Pirates won the World Series. Very, very good guess. Incorrect. Chuck Freeman, however, who's a friend of the podcast and is the host of Locked On Brewers, did get it right. And the answer was John Farrell. The Red Sox sent a utility infielder to the Toronto Blue Jays to bring John Farrell, who had been a coach for the Red Sox, to be the manager after the Bobby Valentine fiasco crashed and burned in a way that even the Hindenburg crew said, well, that was pretty rough. And John Farrell came in, and that was a Boston Strong year, and the Red Sox went on to win the World Series. Chuck Freeman is pretty familiar with John Farrell because John Farrell is not exactly beloved by Milwaukee Brewers fans because he was the Cleveland Indian pitcher who ended Paul Molitor's hitting streak in 1987, which was 39 games. By the way, we're doing a live, so good job, Chuck. Chuck's going to appear on the show either tomorrow night or the night afterwards. He's going to appear this week. We're going live. Seeing some people are already in the chat room here. Bob Karp had the same guess, Chuck Tanner. So close, Bob Karp. So close. Hey, it's that most wonderful time of the week where we're going to go through the power rankings, and I'm doing it a little bit differently today. I'm going to go, 30-1, and there's not been a lot of movement because the bad teams are still bad, the good teams are still good, and there's a massive amount of teams that are currently mashed together in the middle. And so what I'm going to do is this. We're going to go through the 30-1. I'll tell you who all of the Locked On hosts who put their vote in what the results were for that. I'll tell you the order that I personally voted for, which turned out to be pretty close to the way it's lined up here. And then I'm going to do something I do my own tally, which is called the summer score. And I've talked about it before, where after Memorial Day, I keep track of the number of days that a team is in a spot for a position of the playoffs. And it's 1 point. You get 1 point every day you're in the playoffs between Memorial Day and the end of June. You get 2 points for every day you're in the playoff spot in July, 3 points every day you're in a playoff spot in August, and 4 points every day you're in the spot for playoff from September to the end of the year. And whoever gets the highest totals, and you could have a flawless score, has won the summer score. And why I call it the summer score is because I do not believe, and I've said this before, I do not believe a team owes their fan base a championship. I think that's a bonus. What they owe them is a summer, a fun summer to go to the ballpark and have a sense of, hey, we're good this year. We could actually have a shot of winning this. And so I'll give you updates of the summer score and point out the current standings where there are a mess of teams currently within just a few games of a playoff spot, which means teams should really be trying to go for it. Okay, let's go through the power rankings, of which I'll tell you who the Locked On hosts voted for, who I voted for, and we're pretty lined up from the bottom. The White Sox, who have lost their last 10 games and are truly terrible, are the number 30 on here, and that's where I voted for them. That's where the Locked On host voted for them. Today they had a 5-0 lead against their crosstown rivals, the Chicago Cubs, and they wound up losing that game. The 10-game losing streak continues. At number 29, the Locked On host voted for the Angels, who have dropped 7 of their last 10 games, although they won tonight against the San Diego Padres. That's exactly who I went for as well. So right now we're lined up. The Locked On hosts went for the Rockies at number 28, who've dropped 6 of their last 10 games. I had the Marlins at 28, and the Locked On hosts had the Marlins at number 27, and that's where I had the Rockies. So they're pretty close to each other. The Locked On hosts had at number 26 the Oakland A's, who lost another gut punch game today, 4-3 to the division-leading Seattle Mariners. They've dropped 7 of their last 10 games, and a bunch of them have been heartbreakers. Maybe I'm being a little biased because I'm also hosting Locked On A's, and I see how many of these games are close. But yeah, it's been rough. I put the Mets down at 26. The Locked On host had the Mets at 25, and I had the A's at 25. So a lot of these are really, really close together. The Mets wound up defeating the Nationals 6-3 today, but the Mets have had some. Well, they've gone 5-5, and we'll see how they'll go. Hey, the Locked On host at number 24, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Pirates wound up winning today with a Jones pitching like an absolute maniac, and the Pirates wound up beating the Dodgers 1-0, and Skeens is pitching tomorrow. So we'll see how the Pirates do. They're interesting. They've gone 5-5. A lot of teams have gone 5-5 and not moved anywhere. They're at number 24. I had the Reds at number 24. At number 23, the tally gave us the Arizona Diamondbacks, who beat the Giants tonight. They've split their last 5. I had the Astros at number 23. We really disagree. I think we really disagree on the Astros. Well, I guess not. At 22, the tally gave us the Cincinnati Reds, who have won 7 of their last 10 games. And tonight, Montas and company beat the Colorado Rockies. So the Reds are starting to sneak back into the playoff picture. At number 21, we have the strange Houston Astros. Very difficult to try to figure out what the heck they are. Today, the Astros wound up beating the Cardinals, but the Astros remain a sub-500 team, and it's not May anymore. I had the Diamondbacks at number 21. And number 20, I had and the Locked On hosts each had the Nationals. And as we mentioned before, the Nats wound up losing to the Mets. So 20 through 30, I think we're all pretty much aligned, a little change here or there. But interestingly, some of the teams I just mentioned are in the bottom third of the rankings are strangely pennant contenders and should get off their butt and try to fix whatever's wrong with the team. We're going to go through the 1 through 20 as pretty quickly and talk a little bit about the teams that, despite them being pretty low in the totem pole there, are right now sniffing at a playoff spot with the most critical third of the season facing them. Let's talk a little bit about our friends over at Game Time. I'm going to be going to a bunch of games, and I'm going to games all over the map. As I'm going to be in the Los Angeles area, the Bay Area, I'm going to be a little bit of everywhere this whole summer. And I'm going to try to get as many Giants games, Dodger games, A's games, Angel games. Maybe I'll sneak down to San Diego. But wherever I go, I'm going to get my tickets to Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices viewed from the seats, and the lowest price guaranteed. What I love is they have the view from the seats, because I have a specific type of seat that I like. I like to be on the second deck. I like to be behind home plate, but a little bit up the first base line. So if I'm going to a game at Oracle Park to see the Giants, or I'm checking out the Dodgers, or if I'm going to the A's, well, the A's, I can sit wherever I want. But if some of those other teams are pretty crowded, hey, the Padres are drawing. So if I'm going to get a ticket, I want to make sure that I get where I'm going. And sometimes I know where I want to sit, like I just said, but I want the app to basically find the best deal for me. That's a zone deal. A zone deal is you choose the section and they'll find the ticket where they'll give you the best deal. And they got the lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a better price. And your purchase is covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Here's what you need to do. You need to download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I don't want to hear it. Again, create an account and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's right. That's how you spell MLB. It's spelled MLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets and the lowest prices. Do you know what they are? They're guaranteed. Hey, where's your hub for trying to get all the best sports stories and news? I think it's time you make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed to give you the biggest sports stories out there. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, firing through some of the 19 through 1. The Rays are at number 19. I had the Blue Jays at number 19. I think the Blue Jays are too high in the host rankings there, and I think the Rays have too much talent. But, what are you going to do? The Rays wound up beating the Miami Marlins. They need to start winning those games if they're going to get back. They're only a game under 500, and bet against the Rays at your own peril. The Cubs are 3-7. They had a great come-from-behind victory against the Chicago White Sox today. And the Cubs are sneaking up on a playoff spot, even though they've dropped 7 of their last 10 games. I had the Rays at number 18. At number 17, I had, and the hosts had, the Giants. Strange team. Sometimes they look terrific. Sometimes they look like they should be selling immediately. They've dropped 7 of their last 10 games, including an 8-5 loss today in Arizona. At number 16, the hosts have the Blue Jays. I think that's too high. I had the Cubs. The Blue Jays are 5-5, but they don't know what the hell they are. Sometimes they look great. Most of the times they look like they're stubbing their own toe. And we're going to talk a little bit. We already talked to the Blue Jays host, but check out, we're going to bring back the Blue Jays host for Locked On Blue Jays host for the Locked On A's episode in a couple of days. How'd they do today? Well, they lost 10-1 to the Baltimore Orioles in a critical game where the Blue Jays have to start playing well against a good team, a division rival at home. They lost 10-1. Jeez. John Snyder's still the manager. I don't know why. The Cardinals are at number 15. I had the Rangers at number 15 to the Cardinals. Again, a strange team. They lost today to the Houston Astros. They've gone 5-5 in their last 10 games. The Tigers are at number 14. They've won 7 of their last 10 games and are sniffing a playoff spot. They're a little bit better than you think. I had the Tigers there as well. I had, and the host had, the Red Sox at number 13, which is feeling a little high right now, especially after the Red Sox lost another game. No shame in losing to Max Fried, but Cutter Crawford, you got to do better than that. Sox have dropped 6 of their last 10 games. At number 12, the vote went to the Rangers, who are 5-5 in their last 10 games. They lost to the Tigers today and are fallen now 3 games below 500. I had the Cardinals at that spot. 11, the host voted for, and I voted for the San Diego Padres, who've gone 5-5 over the last couple of games. Then you have the Twins. We both agreed the Twins are at number 10. They've won 6 of their last 4 games. The host gave the Royals, who have dropped 7 of their last 10 games, at number 9. I had the Mariners there, but we flopped because they had the Mariners, who have won 8 of their last 10 games and are starting to pull away a little bit in the AL West. They had the Royals. I had the Royals. They had the Mariners at number 8. And everything else is almost pretty much lined up. The Braves at number 7, who, even though they lost Ronald Acuna Jr., they still have the talent to go pretty far. They beat the Red Sox today. The host had the Brewers at number 6. I had the Orioles at number 6. The Brewers have won 6 of their last 10 games and are going to be going to Oakland. No, the Blue Jays are going to Oakland. I'm sorry. The Brewers the Brewers lost to the Phillies. No shame in that. At number 5, the host had the Guardians. I actually think that's too low. And I had the Brewers at number 5. The Guardians overcame a pair of 2-run home runs by Bobby Witt Jr., only to see the Royals' defense fall apart. And the Guardians are now 40-20. That's pretty dang good. At number 4, the vote was for the Dodgers, and I agreed with it, who have gone 5-5. They lost a 1-0 game. Glasnow pitched great. The bats went dead. The hosts had the Orioles, who have won 8 of their last 10 games, at number 3. I had the Guardians there. At this point, these are all the really good teams, and you can kind of shake them up and go around. The Orioles' 10-1 victory was pretty telling. And we're in complete agreement with number 2 and number 1. Philadelphia Phillies are at number 2. They won again today, and they had a walk-off victory today against the Milwaukee Brewers in 10 innings. They just look fantastic. And then you have the New York Yankees. Heel has had one of the best stretches of any Yankee pitcher, certainly this century, and maybe of all time. And the Yankees wound up beating a good Twins team 5-1. Heel has been fantastic. And guess what? Looming right around the corner is Garrett Cole, who pitched at the minor league Somerset today and looks pretty dang good. So let's take a look once again. 1 through 10, you have Yankees, Phillies, Orioles, Dodgers, Guardians, Brewers, Braves, Mariners, Royals, and Twins. This is the final tally from all the hosts, not just me. 11 through 20, you have Padres, Rangers, Red Sox, Tigers, Guardians, Blue Jays, Giants, Cubs, Rays, Nats. And 21 through 30, you got the Astros, Reds, D-backs, Pirates, Mets, A's, Marlins, Rockies, and of course at the bottom, the Angels and the White Sox, who are just right now garbage. We come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the teams that are currently in a playoff position. And some of the teams that exist 20 to 30 in that list are not out of it, nor should they act like they are. Let's talk a little bit about our friends over at FanDuel. This is the best time of the year to be a sports fan because you got so many things going on. NBA finals are starting up. I think they're starting up tomorrow or the next day. That's going to be the Celtics and the Mavs. You got the Oilers and the Panthers playing for the Stanley Cup. You got baseball going on every day, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers will get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has begun the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app. Now, I said that I do the summer score where I keep track of the teams that are currently in position for a playoff spot, and that would be a division lead or tied, having or tied one of the wild card positions right now. Now, let me just go through them right now, because when we're all waking up today on the 5th of June, 2024, the Guardians, Orioles, Mariners, Royals, Twins, and Yankees are all in position for a playoff spot. In the National League, the Braves, the Brewers, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Padres, and Phillies are all teams that would make the playoffs. And that group of American League teams have been in a playoff position since Memorial Day. There's been no change. No one's overtaken it. No team was a wild card team and had fallen out. And so those teams, Orioles, Guardians, Royals, Twins, Yankees, and Mariners, have so far a perfect summer score. They've been in position every day. In the National League, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Padres, and the Phillies have been in position for a playoff every single day. And right now the Cubs are, but the Giants have had a few days, and the Cardinals have had a few days, and they've fallen out, but they're all hanging around. In fact, let's take a quick peek. Now, as I mentioned, the American League group hasn't moved, and it's not going to move tomorrow because the Tigers are 2.5 back. They're the next team that could be a wild card club. Then the Red Sox, Rays, and Rangers are right after them. But the National League is absolutely fascinating because the Cubs would be the third wild card team. Right now, the Cubs and the Cardinals are tied in the loss column. The Diamondbacks are 1 back in the loss column. The Giants and the Pirates, believe it or not, are only 1 back in the loss column. The Giants are 2 back in the loss column. So are the Reds. So are the Nationals. And despite all the horribleness, throwing the glove into the stands, closer to 400 than 500 time that the Mets have had, they're only 4 games out of a playoff spot. They are so crunched together. And I mentioned this before, only the Rockies and the Marlins are out of it. And if you're the Mets and you're saying, we have played as badly as humanly possible, and yet we're sitting here and we're only 4 games out of a playoff spot. If they play well over the final, roughly, not quite 2/3 of the season, any one of those teams could be a playoff team. Because right now, as of this recording, the Padres are not the last wildcard team. They're the middle wildcard team. They're the second wildcard team. And they're at even 500. The Phillies, Dodgers, Brewers, and Braves are all terrific teams. They're the top 4 teams in the National League. They all deserve to be playoff teams at this point. Padres are 500. Cubs are sub 500. All these teams are mashed together, which makes you realize if you are a fan of one of those teams, or if you're the general manager of one of those teams, or the scouting director, or whatever, you have to take a good long look at your team right now and say, wait a minute. I'm not saying trade away all your prospects, but prospects are an interesting thing to bring up right now. Literally. If I were a team, like you saw that happen last year, Cincinnati brought up virtually all their prospects. And now they're in the league for another year. And the Reds, while they're not having a very good year, they're 5 games under 500, but only 2 games out of a playoff spot. If I were the Padres, Cubs, D-backs, Cardinals, Giants, Pirates, Reds, Nats, or Mets, I would go take a look at your farm and say, what do we got? This middle third, because if you have that middle third of the year and you bring up all your top prospects and say, run, go free range prospects. If any one of them click and really play well and spark the team, you just have to get to 500 at this point. 83 wins will probably get you a playoff spot in the National League, by the way some of these teams are doing. So why not? What do you have to lose? No, but Sully, maybe they won't play well. Fine, but maybe they will. And they're already in your system. Bring them up. If I were some of those teams, especially a team like the Nats, the Reds, or the Mets, who were kind of look at this as a transition year and say, well, what do we got? Bring them up. Because maybe you sneak a playoff spot in. You see that happen with the Pirates. They called up Skeens, they called up a couple other players. Let them roam free. A game here or a game there is going to be the difference between we made the playoffs. And it's, again, I'm a broken record, but when you keep seeing teams like the Diamondbacks, like the Braves in 2021, like the Phillies, like the Nats in 2019, make it to the World Series, then you have to crave those final wild card spots and realize you can get them. Call up your prospects because this is the summer. This is what it means by giving your fans a summer. If you're within striking distance of a playoff spot, even if you're a mediocre Cubs team or a mediocre Padre team, you're going like, well, we're a playoff team. This could happen. And, the Braves would play the Padres in the opening round. And, the Braves are a superior team. But could the Padres sneak in? Of course they can. Any team can with a wild card round. And you give your fans that excitement. Hey, we could be a playoff team. And we got a good young player who could have us go far. Give it some thought. Give it some thought, everybody. And Jonathan Curran says, let's go Yankees. Well, yeah, they're playing fantastic baseball, and help is on the way. So we're going to see what happens. Let's do the trivia question for today. On this day in 1989, the Sky Dome opened, the Toronto Sky Dome. And believe it or not, it was considered to be the darling of new stadiums. Everyone was fawning over Sky Dome. Now, granted, stadiums were turned upside down on their ear when Camden Yards opened just a couple of years ago. But at the time, the futuristic Jetsons-like stadium that the Blue Jays moved into was the envy of all of baseball. And the Blue Jays soon became the first team to draw 4 million fans. They had been playing an exhibition stadium, which was basically a football and a soccer stadium. They just put a wall up and had a big parking lot behind right field. When the Jays played their final game, this is a trivia question. When the Jays moved from Exhibition Stadium to Sky Dome in mid-season, when the Jays played their final game in Exhibition Stadium, what Blue Jays player hit a walk-off home run to end the final game at Exhibition Stadium? Put it down there, or put it everywhere that you go at. And if you go post your question somewhere, leave that hashtag #EverydaySully. So follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, whatever it's called now, or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about the power rankings, the summer score, and reminding everyone, hey, don't sit this out. You have a chance to win something. Yes, even a sub 500 team. This is Locked On MLB for the 5th day of June, 2024. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.